Right, so thank you for the degree of interest we have had in this talk, and I hope people find it useful. Oh, here's Paddy. We can Sam upgrade Paddy. He can join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming that we want him. Right, so today I'm going to be talking about something that has been hot on our minds for, I'd say, pretty much most of 2020. So 2020 was amazing, a huge year for us. And I think if you had asked me in like January of last year, could you do your job remotely from home? I would have laughed out loud. You know, I think I would have been so incredibly scathing at the possibility of that happening. And I would have said, no, you know, PBS needs to be in person. It needs to be, you know, we need to be working directly with services and so on and so forth. And there are still situations where I believe that to be the case. You know, there's definitely still parts of the role that I think in person is required. That being said, we have learned just a huge amount about how to deliver the services that we are providing remotely. So I do like this little meme, which is like our vision for 2020 and our COVID-19 wrecking ball coming in to smash that apart. So, okay. So I'm going to be talking about remote delivery, or what is ultimately sometimes referred to as telehealth, the delivery of health services through the use of technology. And if anybody's interested in the more kind of academic or technical stuff, then I do know that there are some colleagues at QUB who are doing some really interesting research on this stuff. And I enjoy this picture of the cat because I feel like I've never spent more time in my life looking up other people's noses than I have done in 2020 with all the camera issues. So yeah, this is essentially what we're talking about: communication technologies for the purposes of delivering the services that we provide. Okay, so there we are. All right, what are some of the key benefits of remote delivery? First of all, cost. The fact that we are not having to travel, the fact that we are not having to do, like, not just the time that we spend traveling, but mileage, train costs, hotels, overnight stays, all of that can be funneled back into real delivery for the individuals who are receiving services, rather than being used on what seems like extra costs. So I haven't got a figure for this. I wish I had gone back, but we have reduced the amount of spending in terms of travel expenses just a frightening amount. And all of that's money that we don't have to charge back to commissioners that can presumably be used elsewhere. So that is one huge benefit. Health and safety, it's obvious. You know, we work with a really vulnerable group of people. We don't want to be going into service A on one day and service B on another when we've got two vulnerable individuals that would potentially get very sick if we were to take infections in with us. So the advantage of being able to work from home really minimizes that risk. The speed of support and the available time that we have. I used to spend, and I don't know what you would say, Paddy, but I used to spend at least 8 hours a week in my car. More, I'd be like more, definitely. 20. And that is now time that I can spend working with the people that matter the most to me. And on top of that, if I receive a phone call saying that somebody there's been a significant incident, or there's been a crisis, or somebody has a question, or they're struggling, instead of me saying, I could probably come and be with you by next Tuesday, I can say, all right, let's jump on a call tomorrow morning. I'll 5. And I really feel like that makes us more responsive as a field. Access for rural or distance clients. You know, we can reach people that maybe struggled to access us before. And there is something quite nice when I'm working with families where they don't have to feel like that invasion of their family home is occurring. You know, they don't have to open up their private space to me. They have control over what aspects of their life I see, you know, how they choose to present themselves. And I think that can feel a little bit safer for people who are in vulnerable positions. Parent or carer-led delivery, i.e. naturalistic settings. So I talk a little bit about observer reactivity in a minute. If people don't know what that is, it's, you know, we sometimes call it like the manager effect or the butter wouldn't melt effect, which is when we get a referral that says that Jane is having the worst time and things have been really, really difficult. And we say, no problem, we'll come and see you and we'll come and do an assessment. And we arrive and butter would not melt with Jane, you know, the entire visit that we are there. And that can be very frustrating for the staff or the family around Jane, because they feel like they're not being seen, they're not being heard, or that we're going to assume that they're making things up. And although we would never assume that, and we know that that doesn't happen, it can be really useful. Some of the work that we've done, you know, that observer reactivity is removed. We're able to see exactly what is happening for people in their own environment. And it's a lot of the work that we've done remotely is parent or carer led by necessity. And often with PBS, that's the end goal. But actually, we start from that position in terms of delivering our services, which can be, I think it can be really effective in terms of the application of PBS. All right. So when you are delivering PBS remotely, using technology, what kind of technology do you need? Now, I was doing some research into this. I've got lots of references at the end, and there's some amazing stuff out there. There's your bog standard web camera. There's things called swivel, which is where you put like your iPad into this little docking station, and you have a remote control, and you can turn it around so it follows you around the room as you're doing your work. You even get, if you happen to have a £7,000 to spare, little robots that will follow you around the house, so that your PBS practitioner can follow you around the service and so on. I'm going to be honest, we have used none of that. Paddy at no point authorised me to spend £7,000 on a robot following me around the house. I have used two key pieces of technology, the first of which is in-ear headphones, and the second of which is my computer. And that is all I have used. And I will explain the in-ear headphones later, but when I show you a video of us conducting a functional analysis remotely. All right. We need some software, and there's two pieces of software that I have used delivering PBS remotely. I'm not going into services to pick up their ABC forms anymore. I'm not going home to mum and dad to ask for their star charts. I'm not there to physically ask them, please, may I have your paperwork? And I'm not expecting them to say, I'll just drop it in the post for you, and that requires me to go to the post office and potentially interact with 3 or 4 people. So where possible, we are reducing any requirement on that. We use RIMES, which is our more advanced system for the restrictive intervention monitoring and evaluation system. Or we have more basic things like the online one that I showed people in the family home one, which is a free thing via our website that is just, you literally click up, it's a rate calculator. You click a button and it will record that the behavior occurred. You can do it on your iPhone, you can do it wherever. And we've used that with families who are out and about a lot and don't want to be trying to take lots of behavior data when they're living their lives. All right. So we have transferred 2 major parts of our service delivery to remote implementation. The first of which is training, and the second of which is direct behavior support with individuals that I'm going to talk about. When it came to training, and I remember in February, Paddy said to me at the start of the NHS project, do you think we should have a chat about remote delivery? And I was like, oh no, that'll be so sad. And we decided we needed to talk about it because of what, we're kind of sensing things were happening with COVID. And I felt really, really sad about it. At the end of this year, I am astonished about what people are capable of delivering training with Zoom. And we found some tools that have made it easier, but not only is there an incredible commitment from the people who have turned up and sat in front of their computer and have made it meaningful, but people have got innovative about the ways that they are working. What's that? I always get this phrase wrong. Necessity is the mother of invention. And that has, did I get it right? Yeah, that has definitely been the case for COVID. So first up, Zoom is a miracle. If you can afford to invest in the professional, or not the paid version, because that really, really works, but it also allows you to do surveys. It allows you to do questionnaires. So we have done knowledge assessments through Zoom using polling. There is an app called Plickers, which you can use in conjunction with your online training. And this picture here is from Plickers, and it will, so you can set up assessments. And this is one that we did for our Introduction to PBS course, which is multiple choice questions, and you can do it at the start and you can do it at the end, and the people just choose their name. So if I've got Jack, Jane, John, and Jill, then they just click on their name, they go in, they complete the assessment, and their scores are fed back to me. And we can do pre and post quizzes and things through the training through that. So that's absolutely amazing. Then we have apps such as the Jamboard. And Jamboard is an online app that you can use where people can, from different locations, can come together to build posters with one another. So it really facilitates kind of team building and conversation for people that aren't actually sat in a room together. That is really just like 3 of the many, many available things for people that people have come up with to make remote delivery of training effective. And we have done so many courses. And yes, I would say the feedback is, we really wish we could meet you in person. That being said, people are still, and the practitioners that were part of the NHSE project are massive testament to this. It is still possible to achieve really good things. All right. We have also conducted behaviour support interventions or functional behaviour assessments and even functional analyses remotely over the course of 2020. And I'm going to show you, forgive me for the audio on this because you're going to hear me and I hate listening to myself, but a case study of me delivering a functional analysis based on Greg Hanley's ISCA, so the test control analysis. I'm sorry if that's not familiar to you, but if there are any behaviour analysts present, then you'll recognise the routine. And this was with a family who were at home. She was not in school. The behaviours were becoming progressively intense, very controlling behaviour, particularly focused on mum and colouring. So I suspected that the function of the behaviour was what we would refer to as man compliance. So I suspected that the behaviour was happening because the little one wanted mum to do as she was told. If you're sat there and you're doing exactly what I'm asking you to, which is my favorite thing, which is coloring, then there will be no behavior. So one of the things you have to do as part of this functional analysis is check that you are actually right in your thinking. You know, you have to, like, before I go and deliver an intervention, I have to be sure, especially since I'm not there in person, that I am on the right track. So this is a little video of me conducting a remote functional assessment of the family, and I do have permission to share it, but you'll hear me conduct a remote functional assessment. And how this worked was I was in front of my computer. Mum had her wireless in-ear headphones in one of her ears, so she can hear me speak, but the young person cannot. Dad is sat on the sofa filming, or pretending to be on his phone, but filming what's happening, and I'm giving immediate feedback to mum as we move forward.
Just before you press play, you've got 15 minutes left here.
This is only a 2-minute video, so we should be good.
It's okay. Don't let Mummy go. We'll try it again. We'll try it again. This one. We'll try it again. We'll try it again.
Okay, put the pen down and stand up. Walk out the room. Okay, turn around, sit down and pick the pen up. Do exactly, yeah. Well done, Andrea, that was perfect. So just for reference, you can't actually hear, but when she throws her arm up, the vocalizations start, the screaming starts, which was the start of the behavioural escalation. So we're responding to that. Perfect, we're going to do that a few more times. Okay, Andrea, go again. Yep, good. Turn around. Sit back down. All right, go again, Andrea. Come back in. Okay.
Okay, that was interesting that she didn't get just so angry there. Could you try one more time for me? Right, yeah, sit down, pick the pen up. Okay, we're going to try that twice more, and then I think if it was the same way again twice more, we've got it. Okay, right, go. Yeah, sit back down. Go. Sit down.
There we go. So by that point, we had 5 confirmations that mum doing as she's told was what was either triggering the behaviour or bringing it to an end, which is us confirming that we were right. We know what to do about that. So once you know what to do, even though I'm from a distance, you then obviously have to go on to design your intervention. And what do you do about that? So, my preferred method of working remotely is to use behaviour skills training.
Can I just clarify before you move on? With the video, is you speaking, that's just coming through in-ear headphones, isn't it, to the mum?
Yes. So she can hear me, I can hear them.
Yeah.
But the little one can't hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the way the audio worked, because I was wearing my headphones, the audio from the computer hasn't recorded. So I could hear them, but it's not on the recording, sadly. And one of the reasons that Paddy knows this family as well, but one of the reasons that this was so helpful for this family is the minute I turn up, you would not be able you wouldn't be able, even if you wanted to, you couldn't trigger a behavior with this young person. With me, if anybody's present that isn't mum and dad, it only occurs when they are on their own. And those of us who work in the field know how often that happens and how frustrating it can be for families, and they end up feeling like they're doing something wrong, and why me, and why will they behave for you but not for me? And this is a real problem for a lot of people, a lot of families in the field. So actually, this was really effective. And the feedback from mum afterwards, she was high. She was like, I really liked that. Like, I liked being told what to do. I felt like much more in control. So that was a really nice way of working. When we go on to actually delivering an intervention, behaviour training is by far my preferred way of working. I talk about it a lot. My behavioural safety stuff that I'm really interested in is all BST. And behaviour skills training is a method of supporting people to implement behaviour intervention programs. But it starts as well as a behaviour intervention in of itself. So you start off with instruction. So with mum, the first thing we were going to do is we were going to replace that problem behaviour, the shouting, the vocalizations. This is a verbal young lady. We're going to prompt her to say, I want my way. So this is back to the ISCA protocol, and she's very capable of saying that. So we don't need to teach the actual skill, we just need to prompt it. And so we are saying to mum, what I want you to do is, as soon as she raises her arms and starts to engage in vocalizations, I want you to say, I want my way. And we practice. So I model, say I want my way, I practice with mum and dad, and then I give her feedback. So with mum, sometimes I was saying things like, you got to jump in there faster. Like, as soon as you see that, you got to jump, you got to deliver that sentence saying, I want my way. We got to a point where she wasn't just saying, say I want my way, because the wee one got that really, really quickly, but she was having to introduce alternative instructions as well. So she'd be having to say, do this first, or, sit down first, or go and get your shoes, or sure, you can have your way. And we had to practice because it was on a rolling thing. And I sat on the other side of a Zoom with mum and dad, and I'd be like, I'd pull one out and I'd be like, okay, a hard task. And she'd have to think of one off the top of her head, and pull a hard task out of one on the top of her head, an easy task, and she'd have to think. And all of this was part of the intervention that we put together. So we're practicing that together over Zoom or over FaceTime with this particular family before we went and actually delivered the interventions, to make sure that they feel really confident in how that's going. Then when they do go and deliver it, I'm still sitting there on FaceTime sometimes, watching and speaking in her ear to make sure that she's getting on okay. So that's a sample, a very brief sample, albeit, of how we have used it. I think I have 3 minutes, so I better hurry up. Okay, potential concerns with remote delivery of PBS. That elusive internet connection really can throw spanner in the works, especially when you are working with families who are in crisis. And we had this with this family where sometimes like the video would just stop, and I'm like, I can't deliver that feedback, and therefore, you know, it might be harder to be effective. GDPR. Where are you storing your videos? Do you have consent to store those videos? How long are you storing them for? I know it's not fun, but we are working with a vulnerable population, and we need to take these things into account. And last of all, procedural fidelity. And what that means is how can we be sure that they are implementing strategies in the way we had hoped they might. And the way that I get around that is, you know, I'm no longer doing whole days with particular clients. I'm no longer traveling. I have more time. I can spend that time FaceTiming with people. I can spend that time, you know, we've done it this way where I've made videos of myself. My poor husband's been forced to role model videos of myself delivering interventions that I send to people and say, this is how I would like you to do it. So you have all of these potential options in front of you in order to support effective intervention. Okay, further considerations. There is an increased requirement for caregiver involvement. Be sure that the people that you're working with they have that in them. Sometimes when people are in crisis, that, you know, they don't have anything more to give. So in that case, remote delivery might not be for them. Can remove observer reactivity. So we talked about that. And instant feedback. It doesn't get much better than that. When's it not appropriate? Okay, if resources are unavailable, and by resources, I mean, you know, time as well as the physical resources. So parent burnout, inappropriate or unstable staff teams, if people don't, you know, some families that we work don't have laptops. They can't afford those. So what do you do under those circumstances? And also when it is unsafe to do so. So if we are talking about an extremely challenging behavior, you know, if there's either severe self-injury, severe physical aggression, we have to be sure that it is safe for us to be working this way if we're asking a family member or a staff member to potentially put themselves in a situation where there is a likelihood that behavior will occur. So there's some ethical situations around that.